With Bitcoin stalling around this big $100,000 level, the big question is what happens next? Will prices continue to fade down, or is all of this just one big breather before the next major breakout move to the upside? Well, former Goldman Sachs Raoul Pal believes this is just one of many pullbacks, and the next phase of the banana zone will soon be upon us. And so, in this video, we'll be looking at firstly, the big setup that's putting everything in place ready for the next big breakout move. Then we'll look at what's happening with inflation. Will it be spiking higher as many predict, or dropping? And then we'll finish with why the biggest explosive moves are all still yet to come. Okay, so first up, let's take a look at this big setup that Raoul Pal is seeing, and it's all setting up the next phase of the banana zone. Okay, so starting with the big setup, and for Raoul Pal, this is the highlights from his latest deck, and it all revolves around the dollar. So right now, the dollar is super strong, and this is bad for risk assets, as because it's the global reserve currency used internationally. When the dollar is strong, this is bad for risk assets, as it's very expensive around the world and harder to trade, so we need a weaker dollar. And he also mentions this is very similar to the last time Trump got into power. At this point, 8 years ago, when Trump got into power, the dollar was also strong, and in his presidency, it just dropped and dropped and dropped. And then this is good when the dollar is being used around the world. So this is where we are right now. The dollar again is very strong, and Raoul Pal sees that this is going to get weaker throughout the year, which is very good for liquidity. Next, when we take a look at global M2, again, 8 years ago when Trump was in power, it's a very similar picture. And if things repeat, which he thinks it will, then global M2 is just going to be going up over the next couple of years. Now, as of right now, you can see that it has been going down, which is obviously why probably we're getting this big correction in the crypto market, and it's nothing new. There are times when it goes down. It has done this before many times. There's still big drops in global M2, so it's not just one straight line up. And this is why the crypto market continually gets these 30 to 50% pullbacks, especially if you're in altcoins, again and again and again. So for Raoul, this is nothing new and will be just one of many times that this happens over the coming months. Now, when it comes to liquidity, all eyes have been on the Fed, and Jerome Powell is still doing QT, which is not good. But Raoul's also pointing out that the Fed isn't the only game in town. In fact, it's really important what we see from China. So this is the People's Bank of China. This is their balance sheet, and he's predicting that over the next 1 to 2 years, the Chinese are going to do massive quantitative easing, or some kind of variant of it, but mass liquidity is going to be injected into the markets. And again, it's not a straight line. You can see big drops, big runs, big drops. So the Asian market is a massive market, so it's not just about the Fed. Now, his thesis revolves around the ISM, which is the manufacturing survey, and basically the key figure here is that it revolves around this 50 reading through the middle. And when it's above 50, we are in economic expansion. When it's below 50, we are in economic contraction. And this is the business cycle. Very cyclical. And where are we right now? Well, you can see in COVID, obviously got absolutely destroyed. It peaked out here. We had this big nasty pullback 2022, and ever since then it's been below 50. So we've been in economic contraction. However, the ISM for the first time in years has just broken above the 50 mark. So we are now just going into the next cycle. And as we go into economic expansion, this is when everything picks up and it's great for crypto assets. So this is just saying, and it's a central piece, that we're just getting started. And finally on this, with the ISM relating to the altcoins, it's when the ISM goes into expansion. This is also correlated to the massive jump in altcoins. So as we can see here, 2019, 2020, as it breaks above the 50, the ISM, this is also excellent for the altcoin market, and it's when altcoins does its massive rallies. So very correlated to the ISM. So the game is just about to begin. Now, another piece for liquidity is inflation, and yes, ideally we want inflation to be coming down. And this just means that the Fed then has the power to use quantitative easing in some kind of form, which obviously we all know by now is very good for crypto assets. I think all it was showing here, when it comes to shelter, this is a lagging indicator, and this is coming down. It makes up a massive part of the US CPI. So he's basically saying that CPI is going to be coming down because of the shelter part of the CPI. This is quite a nice chart. It's a 5-year average of the major outbursts of inflation, and he's basically just saying that everything we've just gone through, it's happened many times before, where you get this massive run up in inflation, and since then it's been dropping. We're down now close to about that 3% mark, but again, if you look at the average of what's happened again and again and again, it's still going to continue to come down. So again, the charts and history are saying CPI will be coming down. Now, the big caveat here, a massive part, is government spending. If government continues to spend ridiculous amounts of money, this is obviously very inflationary, and it could reverse the trend, which is probably what's happened as Biden was coming to the end of his term. He was creating ridiculous amounts, hundreds of billions of dollars going left, right, and center into crazy places all around the world, which is probably why we've had this latest uptick. But now Donald Trump is in power, the government is being axed, and let's take a look. If we flip over, and you can check this out yourself, it's a live clock at US debt clock, we can see that the Department of Government Efficiency is hacking away at government spending. And so far, they've managed to save over $100 billion. So government spending is being absolutely axed. And the US is very lucky to have the world's greatest businessman, Elon Musk, finally getting government spending under control, and this is going to really help bring down inflation. In fact, if we check out the Trueflation reading, we can see this was the last print that's just happened, where it was saying inflation is around 3%. And that was the January reading. And in just 1 month, if Trueflation has got this right, they've already managed to seriously lower the reading. So now it's sitting around 2.5. So it'll be really interesting to see the next CPI print in a few weeks for February, because if Trueflation is correct, we should be getting a very good number, back below 3%. Unfortunately, the work that Trump and Elon Musk are doing is going to take some time. February was their very first month, so it's all happening. Patience, amazing things are going on in the background. And finally, let's just quickly cover why the massive runs that we are all hoping for probably have not even started yet. This is Raoul's Cycle Top Finder, and as you can see, it's very clear when the market has got completely overextended, And this is nowhere near being over. We've not even started. And in fact, since the bottom in 2022, just take a look at what happens. Huge runs, massive corrections, fading down, and just when everyone is feeling at their worst, because all their nice, lovely gains have been taken away, we get a massive run to the upside. Then it fades back down, a big crash, and when everyone's feeling at the worst, and if you're in altcoins, they're going down way more than Bitcoin, you get a massive run to the upside. This one was horrible, a good 6-7 months, came all the way down, and just as you're feeling at your absolute worst, it's flushing out the weak hands, another run to the upside. And then over the last few weeks, February has not been a good month as things are coming down, and it's the big flush outs just as you're feeling at your absolute worst. What do you think is going to happen? In an up market, probability is we're soon going to be taking the next leg up. Now, one of the central themes of this piece is that it's very similar to the last time Trump got in power. This is what happened to Bitcoin 8 years ago in that cycle. And we may get a similar pattern. Obviously, we're not going to go as high as this, but if we get a similar pattern, Bitcoin's price is probably shooting up past $200,000. So it's all to play for. Everything is lining up nicely. This is a very interesting piece on liquidity. So we've got the Fed, we've got the People's Bank of China, we've got the Bank of Japan, European Central Bank, and the Bank of England. This is when liquidity is going super, super high. This is when it's contracting, and you can see it doesn't really contract that bad. COVID obviously shook the world up massively. Global liquidity peaked out here, and this is when the crypto market also peaked out. We had this massive contraction, and look at what's happened with liquidity since. We are still negative on liquidity. So the cycle is going to be reversing. It's a massive piece of this is liquidity. It's cyclical. It's coming. People who are patient and are able to ride the storms are going to be massively rewarded, in my personal opinion. And finally, a great chart that just shows that everything we're going through, weirdly enough, has happened before. We get this massive sideways consolidation after the halving, a huge run, a huge consolidation phase, a big run, a consolidation phase into the final blow off top. And it's happened, weirdly enough, pretty much every single time. This sideways consolidation, a big correction phase, and weirdly enough, we had the sideways consolidation, big run, another correction phase, and it's just history repeating again and again and again. So if you're worried about the crypto markets going down right now, your favorite altcoins going down right now, these big correction phases happen again and again. And in an up market, chances are this is just one big correction phase and the sun will shine again. With Bitcoin stalling out around the $100,000 mark, the big question is, what happens next? Raul believes right now that it's actually very similar to the first Trump administration. And like last time, we will begin to see the dollar begin falling, liquidity start increasing, and we may not need big US liquidity if China takes up the slack, as the Asian market is also a massive market. He still sees inflation coming down, which would give the green light to the Fed to begin stimulating if needed. And he thinks this is all just one big healthy pullback, and we'll see many more coming in 2025. So really, we have to get used to big, severe pullbacks in the middle of a giant bull market. So there you are, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Now, do you agree with Raoul Pal's analysis? Let me know below. However, just remember to get rid of 100% of the comment spam and trading bots that plague YouTube comments. We are trying out the new SuperThanks commenting system. So to get your question or comment read and replied to, or just to say thanks, then use SuperThanks below. And for now, just to say, if you did enjoy anything in the video, then drop a like, and a big thank you to everyone who does, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.